Oregon studio hotline at 336-831-0864. Station's your final time cue will be with 15 seconds until airtime. Mark, 15 seconds until airtime.
We'll do our best.
The following is a presentation of Learfield IMG College.
This is Duck Insider.
Give it to Verdell. He's got the first down and go! Duck fans start celebrating. Oregon is the 2019 Pac-12 champion. The 2020 Rose Bowl champion.
Richardson, another open three. Good! Duarte dribbles and slams with the right hand. For the third time in the last 5 years, the Ducks are Pac-12 champions. Outright champs.
Foley three. Good! Foley ball. Back out Shelley. Three ball. Good! Regular season champions and now Pac-12 tournament champions.
Welcome to Duck Insider.
We're just getting started.
This is Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College. Presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Better banking, local solutions. Live from the Country Financial Studio, here's Joey Mack.
Thank you. Happy Tuesday. Great Ducks coming up tonight. If you're live with us in the 1 o'clock hour, we're getting ready for that 5 o'clock broadcast across the Oregon Sports Network and the Oregon football social media channels. If you're listening to Duck Insider a little later in the day, then you might have already had a chance to catch the archive of Great Ducks that you can find on the Oregon Sports Network podcast and on the Oregon football Facebook page, the Go Ducks YouTube page, and the Oregon football Twitter account. You know, it's amazing how many different platforms we put things on now. Does everyone remember when it was like you were just on a television network or you were just on one radio station? Yeah, I really don't remember that anymore. It's been a long time since we've had all of this. First question of the day from Damon. Are we playing football? I don't know yet. Okay, maybe we should make this a thing on the show. Should we have a countdown clock? Scott, do we have a way to do that? Do we have a way to make a countdown clock to Thursday? So Thursday, all right, let's revisit. Thursday is the day that the Pac-12 leadership group is meeting. Thursday is the day that we might be able to tell you something about what an upcoming season could look like, what things might look like. And remember, too, the other piece of this is basketball, because the NCAA announced that basketball season can start November 25th. So with that in mind, maybe the Pac-12 moves up basketball as well. So there's a lot of different things on the table that the university leadership around the Pac-12 is discussing. We'll have an answer on Thursday. There's your daily update on our countdown clock. Today is Tuesday. So 2 days. The countdown clock is on. Katie Harbert is going to join us today. Katie is great. Assistant Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development, Katie Harbert. She will be with us for 3 different segments today. And the reason I know that is because we recorded the interview with her yesterday. It actually has a really funny ending that I don't want to spoil. It made me and Scott laugh. It was like the ultimate, you know, we scheduled things tight, and I think you guys will understand where we're going here. Katie Harbert, though, really, really cool. She's been here for 13 years. Really does a lot of work to help student athletes off the field. Career development, the O Heroes program is something very near and dear to her, and it was a really awesome conversation about more than just what happens on the field here at Oregon. And Katie Harbert is a big reason for student athlete success, both on and off the field, frankly. So we're going to talk with Katie Harbert coming up. Our Great Duck show tonight is about all of the lockdown corners. So you've missed it. Great Ducks. Each week we go through a different position group from Oregon football's history. Today we're doing cornerbacks. Lockdown corners. Who's the best cornerback in the history of Oregon football? Who are the Great Ducks, if you will, from the cornerback position? My list is longer than I thought it would be for the show tonight. And I hope that we have enough time in our hour-long show to go through everybody. And I will say that my list was almost identical to Jerry's list. Terry John's list was different than mine. Jorgie's list had a couple guys that I didn't have on my list. And that's basically the way that we did this is everybody sent in a list. And it was just, all right, these are the guys that we think would be recognized as the great Ducks at that position group. So there was really no criteria. We just said these are the guys we think we need to recognize. I think the master list for cornerback ended up with like 13 guys on it, which is pretty cool. To think about at Oregon that we've had so many great players at all these different positions. It's been a lot of fun to go back and research and find some cool stories, some cool highlights. So we've got all that coming for you. I don't want to give it completely away, but I will say that guys like Jairus Byrd, Walter Thurmond, Troy Hill, Ifeanyi Preolomu, Cliff Harris, Ugo Amadi, Alex Molden, Rashawn Bowman. Yeah. Did I give away the whole list? No, I didn't give away the whole list. We've got a few other guys that are on there. There's a few great Oregon corners that are named Steve, actually. We're going to talk about that. Rashad Bauman, though, was really good. I remember him. Yeah, Steven just said that in the comments, too. There are a lot of great ones that we're going to recognize tonight on Great Ducks, 5 o'clock. Today is National Voter Registration Day. And the Ducks celebrated today by announcing that every single student-athlete at the University of Oregon is registered to vote. This has been a ongoing endeavor from the department, the Be Oregon group, and it's just cool, honestly. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Whatever your politics are, 100% voter registration. That means that all the student athletes here at Oregon are committed to voting, which is a big part of what makes this country great. Rob Mosley posted a great story that I encourage you to check out for those of you who are interested on GoDucks.com today about how this all came about. We had Mike Menega on the show, Oregon men's basketball assistant coach, and Courtney Walden, who is the strength coach for the Oregon women's basketball team. They sort of spearheaded this effort, and I really commend them for doing so because there's so much going on in the world right now. Again, regardless of what side of the aisle you're on or what your political affiliation is, there's so much going on in the world right now that I think it's important to be having difficult conversations with your friends, your family, your colleagues, and I think that's important for any democracy. Well, that's what the University of Oregon has really tried to cultivate here with this idea that eligible student athletes have now successfully registered for that big November election. So what a way to celebrate that it's National Voter Registration Day and everybody, all the eligible UO student athletes are registered. So now the next step, and this is maybe the biggest portion of this endeavor, is that it's not just right now. This is supposed to be forever. And it was the Keep It 100 campaign. It was a partnership between multiple different groups around Oregon, and that focus now is, all right, you're going to be registered and you're going to participate, be an active member of the voting community moving forward. It's really cool to just see the way that the University of Oregon has embraced the idea, and I really do commend Coach Menega, Coach Walden for what they've done. And really, I want to read you a quote from Rob's piece because I think it illustrates it. And, Courtney Walden, this is great. She said, quote, "We were like, what books can we read? All that kind of stuff. But then we decided we have to do something. What can we do?" And as a result of conversations like that, Oregon Athletic Director Rob Mullins has been encouraging head coaches and student athletes in all sports to embrace this campaign about Keep It 100. So the success has been really, really cool to see. And now you're going to be able to, I think, see a group of student athletes that are really proud of something. And they should be. And they really, really should be. I also have to give a shout out to Coordinator of Student Athlete Development, Jess Harley. Also, Angie Henbest, who is an accountant here for Oregon Athletics and the business office, that they helped with the educational material. Because this wasn't just like, hey, everyone, this is important, go register. There was actually a huge education component of this, that student athletes would attend different virtual seminars about the history of voting and why it's important. And I thought that it was really cool to see student athletes hearing those stories from people who work in athletics, and there are some that really appeal to that group. And I think we can all agree that that's an important piece. It's a cool piece, and it's a cool deal. Proud to be a part of it. And I encourage everybody to check out Rob's story on GoDucks.com on the front page today for those of you who are interested. Also, before we hear from our friend Katie Harbert, this is kind of an interesting statistic, and I just want to throw it out there because I got a kick out of it today. It doesn't really have anything to do with Oregon, but it has a lot to do with the Pac-12. West Coast College Football, the fun Twitter account to follow. They put out a lot of kind of interesting stats and lists. Since 1997, westcoastcollegefootball.com, at West Coast CFB on Twitter, says that Washington State has more AP top 10 finishes, 5, than, listen to this list, Miami, Tennessee, Nebraska, Michigan State, Stanford, Notre Dame, UCLA, Washington, Utah, and Texas A&M. Washington State, since 1997, has more AP top 10 finishes than Miami, Tennessee, Nebraska, Michigan State, Stanford, Notre Dame, UCLA, Washington, Utah, and Texas A&M. All right, you tell anybody outside of the Pac-12 footprint that Washington State has been more successful in terms of those top 10 AP finishes since 1997 than the likes of Stanford, UCLA, Washington, and Utah? The funny thing is, I read that and I'm like, man, I wasn't expecting that. And then I think about how much trouble the Ducks have had with Washington State over the last few years, and I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, kind of cool. I saw that stat today and I was like, boy, man, those little fun stats. It's good stuff. Coming up, we're going to hear from Katie Harbert. She is the Assistant Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development. She didn't join the show and discuss her work with student athletes off the field, and I think that you'll really enjoy this conversation. I really loved talking to her. She has so much passion for what she does, and it was really rewarding for me to be able to tell her story and what she does at the Jayco Center. We're going to talk about that with Katie Harbert. It is Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. More coming up inside the Country Financial Studio after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
Your daily dose of Oregon athletics. This is Duck Insider from Learfield IMG College.
Okay, forest animals, kids are coming to the forest, and it's up to us to make their visit a good one. Sparrow, have you practiced the most popular bird songs for the year?
Of course.
Catchy. I like it. River, how's the temperature?
It's a refreshing 52 degrees, man.
I love it. Turtle.
He's not here yet, man.
He's late every morning. Okay. Squirrel.
The forest has been preparing just for you. To learn more about cool things to do in the forest, visit discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Long ago, you wouldn't think of galloping on a horse while doing calligraphy, and you wouldn't have attempted to ride your bike while typing a letter. Yet you think you can safely operate a multi-ton vehicle while texting? Behind the wheel is no place to multitask. If you want to BRB, drive now and text later. Lives depend on it.
Visit StopTextStopWrecks.org. A message brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration, Project Yellow Light, Noise, and the Ad Council.
Joey Mack welcoming you back to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union inside the Country Financial Studio. Yesterday, had the opportunity to sit down and talk for about 25 minutes with Katie Harbert. Katie is the Assistant Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development, and she's been with Oregon now for about 13 years. Her office is in the Jayco Center, works with student athletes on a number of topics, career development, internship placement, and you always hear that phrase, 99% of NCAA athletes go pro in something other than sports, and we kind of talked about that, and I think that Katie Harbert is a huge reason why there's so much success for student athletes that leave Oregon, not necessarily on the field, on the court, but just in life in general. Had a great time catching up with Katie Harbert. A lot of things to jump into coming up with Katie Harbert. All right, Katie, first, I got to say, we haven't had you on the show since I've been doing this, and that's my bad. We needed to do this way sooner than we are right now. And so I want to say first, thanks for doing this. And then number two, how the heck are you? Things are a little bit different, I'd imagine, in your day-to-day life.
They are, yeah. Well, thank you for having me on. And yeah, I think my motto this year has been, I'm fine, everything's fine. We're all fine. So just rolling.
Did somebody tell you that has been our motto? Like Scott and I yell that in the office?
We need coffee cups. We all need a coffee cup that says that. Maybe also T-shirts. It could say it on my mask.
Yes. Okay. This is great. Our coordinating producer for the radio network, Nikki Papoulis, she actually got me a mask that says,
I'm fine.
It's fine, I'm fine, everything is fine.
It's a thing. It's true.
I mean, Katie, we're gonna get along great. This is gonna be a very, very fun interview. Okay, so Katie is the Assistant Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development. I'm first going to ask you what that means for fans. Give fans a breakdown of what that title means and what you're doing on a daily basis.
Yeah. Well, the way I usually explain it is we've got all the folks, here that help with everything related to their sport performance. So the nutritionists, their strength coaches, their actual coaches. We've got a whole boatload of people in the Jayco that help with their school and academics and all that stuff. So I'm kind of like the everything else bucket, like leadership, involvement in the community, life after sport. Sometimes it's like roommate issues or whatever. I miss my family. So not a full-on counselor, but we catch a lot of that, just like, the how are you question. So we really try to look at people like holistically and trying to get our student athletes to make sure that they still have like an actual college experience too, and they're able to think about what they want to get out of their college experience and then make it happen for themselves.
Interesting. Yeah, I think that it's super valuable. I just want to reiterate, we've had a lot of student athletes say that the people that they get closest to aren't necessarily their coaches. It's folks like Katie. And so what you guys do is, I can say is very, very valuable. Something that everybody has to do when they come on the show, at least with me for the first time, is tell their 2-minute life story. So 2-minute life story. How'd you get here?
Okay. Well, I actually am a Eugene native. So I was born and raised in Eugene. I was your typical, I guess, like kind of student athlete myself. So I played soccer and basketball. In high school, I went to Pacific Lutheran University up in Tacoma. So Division III, I played soccer there. And I also had a chance to study abroad in Spain. And I was a tutor for the psych department and got to do some other kinds of, things that our typical Oregon athletes don't always have the time for, which I think was really gave me the drive to want to make sure other student athletes had that true college experience. So I majored in psychology. After I graduated, I did AmeriCorps for a year. So I actually worked for a parent education program, which was interesting as a 22-year-old fresh out of college, knowing nothing about parenting. And then I went to graduate school in Springfield, Massachusetts, where I got my master's of education in counseling, and it specialized in working with athletes. So athletic counseling was the degree. And it was an awesome program. I learned a ton about doing the work that I do now. And I use, that skill set, but also the content and what I learned like in my daily job still. After that, I finished my degree in 2 years. I came back here to Eugene, and I got the chance to do a full-time internship with one of my mentors, Karen Nelson, who really started the program here at Oregon and laid the foundation to build this into, an even bigger program than what she was able to do. But she was amazing. She taught me the ropes of everything, and I've been here for 13 years. So, I have 3 kids. I coach, youth soccer. We try to be involved in much of the community as possible. Duck sports is life, So yeah, we enjoy everything there is about living in Eugene and being a part of the university and specifically the athletic department.
I think that's really cool to hear from a Eugene native who's now back here, and you clearly have such a great connection to this community, Katie. I mean, what about this community do you love, and what brought you back here?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a lot to love. I'm your, typical, I love being outside. The smoke the last 2 weeks brought me to my knees. I survived COVID just fine, but when we couldn't leave our house, that was actually brutal.
Yeah.
So, everything the outdoors has to offer. Also, I think just it is a small college town. And so I really do have a sense of community here and loving everything that there is to love about the Ducks and the university. And I think I knew growing up in Eugene that I didn't want to go to the U of O. I wanted to leave and spread my wings a little bit, which took me all the way to Tacoma, really not very far away. But I also knew it was a place I wanted to come back to and raise a family here. And so both my husband and I are from Eugene. And so, our roots run deep, and there's a lot to love about it.
Yeah, I'm a huge fan. I'm not from Eugene. I wish I was at this point, and I love it here. I mean, I also have to say, when you said that you went to Springfield, I'm glad that you clarified that you didn't, just go get your master's right across town, right? You must have had to do that over the years to clarify that you had to go across country also.
Oh, I think Springfield is like the town that there's a Springfield in every state.
Yes.
Somebody told me that once. Yeah. So yeah, Springfield, Massachusetts.
We're going to continue our conversation with Katie Harbert, Assistant Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development. Getting in next to a little bit about what she's doing on a daily basis, working with student athletes, and she's heavily involved in the O Heroes program. We'll tell you a little bit more about that, some of the community service that the University of Oregon Athletic Department gets into. Katie's big reason for it. And isn't that cool, though, that from Eugene, and loved it, wanted to come back. I think that's really cool to hear. You always hear that you tend to either never go back to your hometown or you end up right back there right after you think you need to leave. I've heard that story a lot, that it's either you're gone and you're gone forever, or after you go to college, you want to come right back. I mean, I've heard that story a lot, and I thought it was cool having Katie talk about that. Coming up, we're going to continue that interview. It's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Back inside the Country Financial Studio after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
All it takes is one drop to make a wave. One beat to inspire a track. One spark to get creativity flowing. With every drop, Life Water refreshes your mind and restores your body. Purified water, pH balanced with electrolytes for taste. Designed with original works of art on every bottle. Let us be your source of inspiration. Life Water, the feel-good water.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
You're listening to Duck Insider. Duck Insider on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Adopt US Kids presents What to Expect When You're Expecting a Teenager. Learning the lingo.
GOAT, G-O-A-T, acronym, stands for Greatest of All Time. As in, spaghetti sandwiches for dinner? They're my fave. Dad, you're the GOAT.
You don't have to speak teen to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same. Visit adoptuskids.org. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
Man, do I love card night. You ready, boys? You got a king?
Go, Fish Dad!
Oh, come on. This is WWE superstar Titus O'Neil. It only takes a moment to make a moment. Take time to be a dad today. Learn more at 877-4DAD-411 or visit fatherhood.gov.
Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Back on Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio. Great Ducks coming up tonight. If you're live with us in the 1 o'clock hour, we'll be back with you at 5 o'clock, this time on the Oregon football social media channels and across the Oregon Sports Network. I'm looking forward to Great Ducks tonight. It'll be our second show. You know, obviously, a few bumps for us in our first show. I get that I'm probably a lot harder on us than everybody else is. I don't know, maybe not. I feel like a lot of fans, you guys all watch things, and we don't like when we talk over each other on a Zoom call. It's happening more and more, that's for sure. But that happened a few times, obviously, with our show for wide receivers. So hey, it'll be better, I promise. Cornerbacks, I hope. It's funny though. So we did that. We do the Dairy Mart highlight of the week, right? And for cornerbacks, it's like we all know what the highlight should be, right? I mean, it's literally called The Pick. Well, Scott and I were talking, it's like we can't have that be the highlight of the week. That's like too obvious. But are we overthinking this? Should it be just no, The Pick is the highlight that cornerbacks, every Oregon cornerback knows? And
yeah, but we've seen it so many times.
We've heard it a lot.
And it's a mystery what the play of the week's going to be tonight, though. You got to tune in and find out.
Oh, I was going to tell everybody, but never mind. Scott doesn't want me to tell everybody. So the moral of the story is that we did not pick The Pick as our Dairy Mart highlight of the week tonight. We'll see. How about the Monday Night Football game last night, by the way, everybody? That was crazy. My cousin, who was the best man at my wedding, is a Falcons fan. I haven't talked to him about this yet today. In fact, I texted him about something else this morning just because I didn't want to bring it up. What a game. Oh, man. That was fun. More of your Pro Ducks calendar coming up later on in the show as well. We continue, though, our conversation with Assistant Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development, Katie Harbert. She's got a lot of passion for what she does and does so much for student athletes here at Oregon. We continue our conversation with a true, honestly, life changer in Katie Harbert. I got to ask you a little bit more about Karen Nelson. I had the pleasure of hosting the Hall of Fame induction when she was recognized by the Order of the O, Katie, and I've only ever heard fabulous things about Karen Nelson. Could you give fans just a little bit of the history of what she built and now what you've continued to build with student athlete development here at Oregon?
Yeah, well, Karen, I mean, she's a legend. Obviously, she's now into the Hall of Fame, but she really, truly is. She was one of the, I think, very first people in college sports across the country who really brought the whole idea of like holistic student athlete well-being and really the counseling aspect into college sports. And so at the time, the program was called a life skills program. They don't really call them that anymore, but that was, I think she was selected as one of maybe 5 schools to be the NCAA's like pilot programs. And she did it. And that was, I think, in the late, might have been the late 80s when that wasn't really a thing. So she got it. She got the value of student athletes and the challenges they face, but also the value that they bring to not only the department, but to the community. And, helping them get to use that athlete experience and then thinking about how they can use that as a platform to launch from. So the skills that they learn and how they transfer into life after sports, she was really the first one to do that. And also she was just excellent. mean, she mentored so many people in so many ways in this department. So she had a skill in counseling also, but it wasn't just the athletes. Honestly, she was really helpful with a lot of coaches and talking through team dynamics and how do you get this team to work better together and function better together. So she did a lot more than, obviously what was in her job description. I think when she retired, I think they had to basically split her job off into 3 different positions because that's how much work she was doing.
Yeah, that sounds like that's the exact story that I've heard actually about her, and I think it's really cool to be able to celebrate somebody like that who was on the cutting edge. Katie, we talk so much at Oregon about being on the cutting edge, but really the cutting edge part of student athlete welfare is a huge deal, and I guess I kind of wanted you to touch on that a little bit because obviously this is a passion for you, and you as a student athlete, I'm sure you had folks that really connected with you and helped you kind of want to get into this. You touched on that a little bit. I guess how big of a deal is this for a student athlete? And I mean, just how much magic, I guess, comes from these sorts of programs and all those sorts of conversations?
Yeah. It's interesting. I think it's so important. And I think a lot of times the realization or the aha of that doesn't happen until maybe they're gone. So for me, it's a lot of planting seeds and, it's the whole water the bamboo. You put in the time and the effort now and you hope you plant those seeds. And then it might be 5 or 10 years down the road when they text you and say, thanks, or like, oh, I remember that. And, now I'm going through this. I'm going through that whole transition and kind of loss of identity after my sport's over. And now I have to fall back on the resources and the things you talked about back then. So it happens for different people at different times, but there's just so much value. And really, it comes down to a lot of just identity talk and who are you? What's really meaningful to you? What are your interests? Like, yes, you're an amazing athlete and, fill in the blanks. Like, there is more to you than just an athlete. And so absolutely wanting, our student athletes, most of them are very elite. They get to go play pro. They're extremely successful and there's a lot more to them. And so really our work revolves around like that, and then filling in the blanks after that.
Assistant Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development, Katie Harbert, our guest. Katie, what does a day look like in your job? I know things have changed as we touched on at the start of the interview. I mean, give fans, I guess, the normalcy day-to-day of what you're doing with student athletes on a daily basis.
Sure. Well, so in the fall, I teach a class. It's basically like the foundations of health and well-being, and it's focused on that student athlete experience. And so I'm heavily bombarded in the fall with teaching. But day to day, I meet one-on-one with student athletes and do some of that kind of career coaching piece. So it might be resumes or just talking about future or informational interviews or how to get an internship. So there's a lot of that career piece. We do a lot of large scale programming and workshops. And so everything from career topics to diversity inclusion topics. We've done conversation between police and student athletes of color. We've done conversations on international student athletes and what it's like to live in the United States and, based off where they're coming from. So a lot of large scale programming that might be, things at night, like 7 p.m. when our student athletes are done with school and their sport for the day. Then there's another thing on top of that when most other college students are kind of doing their thing. Our student athletes are still at it. So there's a mix of individual kind of one-on-one stuff, but then large scale. And then of course, add in the meetings and the emails and the all that kind of stuff.
The fun stuff.
Yes.
Yeah. We meetings, emails, we all love that. We all are big fans, especially in today's world where most meetings are done like we're doing right now, talking on Zoom. Do you have Zoom fatigue yet?
Oh, that hit, I think, week 2.
Yeah.
What was that? March 30th?
Us too. Yeah. I think we're all there. It's even the little things like, and this is going to sound maybe a little odd, Katie, but like even that I can't like shake your hand here in person in the studio, like it's been weird for me to figure out how to do interviews, just like I'm sure a lot of different things have gone off the rails. Katie Harbert, our guest, Assistant Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development. So give us a little bit of a sense more on what the process is like for student athletes. Are you guys touching base with them when they first get here? Do you kind of wait for student athletes to come to you? How do you guys address that as you build that relationship with student athletes?
Yeah. Well, there's over 450 athletes, and there's 2 of us working full time. So that's a lot of people. Our goal every year, and we've already hashed out goals again this year. We're always ambitious, and our goal is to do that individual outreach to every single athlete. Between Jess, Harley, and myself, we break up the teams and we kind of approach it in a systematic way. We like to think. But then, everything starts happening and school starts and all the programs. So it can be really hard to get through that outreach and connection with every single athlete. So a lot of what we do is, they opt into our programs. Nobody has to do anything. They don't have to do career stuff. They don't have to volunteer. Luckily, I think we have a good culture here, especially of volunteerism. Quite frankly, we do about 4,000 hours in a normal non-COVID year of serving the community and communities across the world, actually. So yeah, I would like to say I get to really make that strong connection with every single athlete. It just doesn't quite happen that way. But we give it our best shot.
I'll be honest, though, she makes a lot of great connections with a lot of different student athletes between Katie and Jess Harley, who they make so many important connections with student athletes. I've talked to a number of student athletes that have great things to say about both Katie and Jess and just the way that they help promote the off-the-field stuff that goes on for a student athlete. It's really important. Today's show brought to you by Shadow Hills Country Club, offering the perfect combination of rural beauty, great golf, and affordable family entertainment that builds a lifetime of memories. Call for a tour today. Thanks to Shadow Hills Country Club for their support. I thought that was pretty funny yesterday when Derek Radley was on. He was like, man, yeah, the golf industry has never been better. That's probably true right now. It's been one of the few activities that didn't have much of a hiccup over the last 6 months. And Shadow Hills, man, what a beautiful spot. Coming up, we're going to continue our conversation with Katie Harbert, the O Heroes program, and some of the specifics of what student athletes do off the field through some of these different initiatives. It's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union, back inside the Country Financial Studio right after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
After 2 years of construction, my wife and I finally moved into our dream home. So when a bathtub fixture broke, causing major water damage, I was glad we had the home insurance protection we needed. How do you know your home is protected? Talk to a Country Financial rep like me, Nick Simon. We can help you understand your options and select coverages to meet your needs. Then if something happens to your home, you won't have any surprises. Need the right coverage for your home but not sure where to start? Visit TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
This football season, prepare your taste buds for the most iconic sports watching drink of all time, Pepsi. With refreshing deliciousness specially formulated to keep your eye on the ball and mouth-watering fizziness to help you power through game day, Pepsi has everything you need to start strong.
I used to care when Mike cheered so hard he spilled nacho cheese on my carpet, but thanks to Pepsi, even Mike can't ruin my football party.
So this football season, make Pepsi your go-to game day drink because it's the only drink made for football watching. Pepsi, that's what I like.
This is the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Tweens have mastered the art of tuning out. Jen, there's a spider in the car. We're turning your room into a home gym. See? Nothing. But some messages need to get through. Like making sure they're buckled up the whole ride, every time. Do whatever it takes to make your child listen. Jen, I friended your boyfriend.
Wait, what?
Buckle up, sweetie.
Never give up until they buckle up. Learn more at safercar.gov/kidsbuckleup. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
To buy your home, you became a house hunting ace. Learned about loans, scoured neighborhoods, and asked the right questions. Now you're queen of your castle. If you manage that, you can get your retirement plan on track. Visiting aceyourretirement.org can help. With 401k tips and smart saving strategies, you'll feel empowered to own your retirement like you own your home. Go to aceyourretirement.org. Because when it comes to clearing financial hurdles, you're an ace. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Welcome back to Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. I'm Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio. Great Ducks coming up tonight. If you're live with us in the 1 o'clock hour, our Great Ducks show is coming up across the Oregon football social media channels and here on the Oregon Sports Network at 5 o'clock. Cornerbacks who we're recognizing tonight. Favorite cornerbacks for Oregon football, and the greatest that we've seen wear the Oregon uniform and play that lockdown corner position. Today's show brought to you by North Fork Public House, open for dine-in and takeout, northforkeugene.com. We've got your Toyota Women's Sports Schedule Spotlight coming up in just a moment, but I want to continue our conversation with Katie Harbert, Assistant Athletic Director for Student Athlete Development, talking about the O Heroes program and all these different initiatives to help student athletes off the field, and also a funny ending to our interview that I won't spoil for you, but I think you'll all get a kick out of. Our conversation with Katie Harbert continues. You touched on the community involvement. I want to ask you about O Heroes, since you coordinate all that community involvement. For fans that are unaware, can you just elaborate on O Heroes, kind of how it started and what you guys are able to do through that program? Because it's pretty powerful.
Yeah, well, like we talked about Karen, right? She did establish this culture of leadership and service when she started the whole program, back in the 90s. They were already doing work. And so O Heroes, when I started, there was a group of us that basically came along and started to brand it. What is it? We wanted to be able to tell the story of all the really cool work that our student athletes are doing. And so, as you probably know, in Eugene and Oregon, there's not a lot of professional sports to follow. So our Oregon athletes become the celebrities. They are the local celebrities. And so we get boatloads of requests from community programs, from schools. I mean, we've had everything. I think my favorite request was from eWeb, and they requested a student athlete to judge the water. There was a water tasting competition.
Interesting.
And so they wanted a student athlete because they were so proud that that they got to hydrate our athletes, that they wanted an athlete on their judge panel to judge the water. And so we found an athlete to do that. And sure enough, you never know this, but Eugene's water actually went all the way to the Nationals championship, and I think it was like them in some county in Tennessee, and they did quite well. So we were then proud back to be able to judge the water. But we do a lot with kids. We try to reach out to groups that our athletes are really passionate about. So if they come in with a passion for working with kids with cancer, or for children who are deaf and hard of hearing, or the elderly, we want to fuel their passions while also responding to the needs of the community. So it goes both ways there.
I have multiple things to say that I have to. I have this vision now of judging the water competition with, you drink it and then you hold up a card like they do on the dunk contest, 8, 9, 10. That's hilarious. And also, it confirms, Katie, thank you for this, because I am a self-proclaimed water snob. When we travel to Arizona, I can't drink the tap water because we're so spoiled here. So,
totally.
Wow, the things that you learn. I mean, this is great. This is maybe the best interview we've had all year, because now I know that I'm not a water snob. Everyone else feels the same way. So, Katie, I owe you for this.
Next time they ask us, we'll just connect them to you. You can be the judge.
No, nobody needs. No, the student athletes are the stars. I don't. Please. I've often said that the whole point of this show is to have me just get out of the way and hear from people like yourself and coaches and student athletes, because they're the stars. Believe me, they're the stars, as you know. Tell us a little bit about the value of the Jayco Center, Katie, and just what it was like when that building got off the ground, and just the resource that it is for student athletes, not just as a facility, but also just as a community hub with yourself, academics, everything else.
Yeah. Oh, it really is. I think obviously there was the explosion in the number of tutor rooms available, and there were bathrooms available for people, which weren't really present at the old space. So it's beautiful, obviously, and it's so functional for the academic side of things. But I think the real, the unnamed value, or maybe the quantified value, is the community piece here. And I think it's just it's the space where all the athletes are here. They're in between classes. They're hanging out. They're making friends. They're, sleeping on the couches sometimes. So it's just really a great space for them to be able to build family and build that culture of family that we have here at Oregon. between the different teams. And, with the staff here too, it's just like it's so fun when it's hard right now because there's nobody here and all the furniture is like tucked away in my office back here. But it's got really that feeling of community. Again, it brings that community feel here. And also being on campus right here, it's great because you start to really, feel like the student athletes are connecting in more ways on campus than if this building were over at Autzen.
This is an obvious question with everything going on. How difficult has it been to maintain the community, to do your job with students working remotely? And how are you guys combating that over the next few months?
Yeah, it was really rough. I think, summer, everybody kind of dips out and just checks out. Spring term, I mean, we all felt it, but professionally, and we're just older, I think we were able to power through it a little bit more. The student athletes were done by week 3 or 4 in spring term on Zoom. So they did what they needed to do, class-wise in school. But obviously with our programming being optional, we really had to be creative in ways to try to get them to engage with us in those group and workshops. So it became more of a one-on-one. Like I was just on the phone talking to people more than I was engaging with them on Zoom. So this year we're going into it, we're trying to be extremely creative. We're trying to kind of meet them where they're at. So we actually surveyed the student athletes to see how are you going to engage this year? What do you want it to look like? And, a lot of them still want that just small group connection. So of course, being safe, socially distancing and with masks and everything, but there's definitely a need among our community, I think, and with that age group that they are thirsty for good relationships. And so we're trying to be creative and prioritize what are the events that we do want to hold very small groups in person safely versus what can we do online and still keep their attention on Zoom. So we're working through that, and we're gonna balance those needs out.
Yeah, I know it's tough for everybody. I think we're all feeling that, and I think it's super interesting to see how everybody's affected by it for sure. And let's all hope that we can get back to the in-person community as soon as we can. I hope one thing, Katie, I got to say that you guys will continue is placing student athletes at various internships. I can confidently say that our best 2 interns that I've ever had for the Oregon Sports Network came from Katie. It was the Jakes. We talk about them a lot, Jake Breland and Jake Hansen. So thank you, 1. And 2, just how cool is it to see those sorts of stories take place and see student athletes really get interested in something like that?
That's my favorite. And really, it's just that them being willing to even just try something new and something outside their comfort zone. It's so interesting because you got athletes like both of the Jakes who are able to play their sport in front of 60,000 people and do the things that they do. But then that's a leap for them to leap from the world of sport, which they're so comfortable with, to go into a professional setting. And you're still sports. So that was maybe a little bit less of a leap than some other of our student athletes and internships they've done. But seeing them being willing to take that leap and to push themselves is absolutely one of the most rewarding things. And every single intern that we've placed through that program, they did a great job. First of all, they made great connections, and they really loved what they did, and they did a good job. I think they did it. They have so many great qualities of good employees and team members and hard workers and all that, good learners. And so that's been really fun to see that program take off.
It was a lot of fun. I hope that it can continue as we get back to some semblance of normalcy. Katie, I got to tell you, I could talk to you for hours, but I've already kept you longer than I thought I would. And this has been really interesting and fabulous to hear. Thanks for everything that you do for student athletes, for the Ducks. I got to say, I love your energy. You and I haven't gotten a chance to talk much since you're on the other side of the river, as they say. And I always see you on the sideline for football, though. And, it's always got to be fun to see your student athletes perform at a high level. I mean, I imagine you must have a pretty rewarding experience in your job. It's got to be a lot of fun.
It is fun. My favorite is when you get those thank you texts or thank you notes from people, just showing appreciation. So
good. Well,
Kate, great. We also have great people here. So thank you, Joe. I appreciate the time here.
Hey, this has been awesome. As you can see, now we're getting ready to record with Derek Radley because he's here too. So, Coach, what's going on? This is great. We got multiple people on an interview panel for the first time, which is actually going to be a lot of fun. Katie, though, I will say, in all seriousness, you do like 3 people's jobs also, as you said Karen did. So thank you for everything that you do, and it was great catching up with you.
Thank you. You too. Have a great day, Joey.
I have to say that after we stopped the recording, Katie looked right at the camera and was like, good luck, Derek. That was a lot of fun talking to Katie Harbert. Seriously, though, people like Katie, I'm so glad that we're able to tell those stories on the show now. And really that, I mean it, it's the fault of the host of the show. That's my bad. I'm the one that puts together the schedules for the most part, and I should have had Katie on the show a long time ago. What she does for student athletes, I think, is very powerful. And student athletes, really, what I loved about what she said is, hey, sometimes student athletes won't text me and say how much they appreciate it till 5-10 years later. But you can tell that you're making an impact, and Katie makes a huge impact. So, Katie, if you're watching, again, thanks for what you do because it's really valuable. I know that the student athletes sure do appreciate it. And as I sit here and am able to talk about all these different things, I sure appreciate it. And it's pretty powerful. And there's a lot of other people in the athletic department that are like that. And I'm glad that we've been able to tell some of those stories. Speaking of that, tomorrow on the show, we're going to take you inside the Oregon nutrition department. Nikki Duke, who's in charge of the Oregon nutrition department, is going to join us. So Nikki has a great story to tell, I think, about the growth of the nutrition industry in sports. The growth of the department here at Oregon has really taken off the last few years. I'm excited to talk about that. More coming up, also your Products viewing guide, and a few other news and notes from around Oregon athletics and beyond. This is Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Joey Mack inside the Country Financial Studio. We continue after this on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
From the weight room to the classroom, on the field and off it, On Point proudly supports University of Oregon athletics because student athletes do so much more than bring us pride on game day. They bring our entire community together in Eugene and all across Oregon. So whether you're watching the game in the stadium, at home, or at your favorite local business, their success makes all of us stronger. On Point Community Credit Union. Join in. OnPointCU.com. Federally insured by NCUA. Equal housing opportunity.
As my family continued to grow, I realized I'd have to replace my beloved Jeep with something that has, well, more seats. I'm Jason Hines, Country Financial Rep and father of 7. Whether you're upgrading from your sporty ride with no room for a car seat or finally replacing your well-loved beater that still has a cassette player, you'll want the right protection for your new car. Work with a Country Financial Rep like me and get the protection you need at a price you can afford. Learn more at TakeSimpleSteps.com or contact a local Country representative.
More Duck Insider coming up on the Oregon Sports Network from Learfield IMG College.
Whoa, long time no see. It's me, the Rock t-shirt in the back of your closet. Dude, remember? You crowd surfed in me, man. But you haven't worn me in like forever. I get it, you're retired, but I still got some rock left in me. So take me to Goodwill, where I can really make a difference.
Your donations to Goodwill create jobs, training programs, and education assistance for people in your community. To find your nearest donation center, go to goodwill.org. Donate stuff, create jobs. A message from Goodwill and the Ad Council.
I wasn't prepared to be a caregiver to Mom. I had no idea how hard it would be and what I would need to know. Things I never thought of, like how to improve her mood and ways for me to stay positive. Luckily, I found the Caregiving Resource Center from AARP. It had articles about the basics, but also information about the hurdles I was facing.
Caregiving Resource Center at aarp.org/caregiving. Articles, tips, and tools to help you both care for your loved one and care for yourself. Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Joey Mack welcoming you back inside the Country Financial Studio. It's Duck Insider, presented by On Point Community Credit Union. Today's show is brought to you by Jackson's Food Stores, a proud sponsor of the University of Oregon Ducks. Stop by your neighborhood Jackson's for all your game day essentials with everyday specials on game day necessities. You'll be ready for anything the big game brings. Go Ducks. A cool addition to the Products Viewing Guide that you can find every Monday, a new updated version on GoDucks.com that Rob Mosley puts together. This week's Women's Sports Schedule Spotlight brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. And you know, it was cool when I noticed that Rob was keeping track of all this, because we've told you about the Athletes Unlimited softball league with Chris Hovengay, DJ Sanders, Gwen Savekis, and Janie Takeda-Reed. As remember, the teams get picked prior to each weekend, and then you see them in action Saturday, Sunday, Monday, and then the teams get repicked. We saw another great weekend of action for Athletes Unlimited, but also of note now is European Pro Volleyball, as athletes like Willow Johnson and Ronica Stone are playing professional volleyball over in Europe. For Willow Johnson, she's in Turkey, and Ronica Stone is in France. And I love what Rob wrote, and I want to read it to you because it kind of made me smile. He's like, well, this is a good faith effort to provide chances to watch our alums, but please keep in mind language barriers, time changes, and availability of streams can make it tricky. It's true. You know, I still, though, I got to say, I tip my cap to Rob for keeping track of all of those different streams. And it's been really helpful for me, honestly, to keep track of all of the different products that are in action. But pretty cool to see Willow Johnson and Ronica Stone. They'll be participating in the European Pro Volleyball Tour coming up. For Willow Johnson, she was in action this morning. And then on Saturday for Willow Johnson as well. And on Friday at 11 a.m. on Facebook, actually, Ronica Stone, you'll be able to watch her from France as well. This week's Women's Sports Schedule Spotlight brought to you by Toyota. Let's go places. Yeah, we don't have a lot of WNBA products anymore. I've been following, though, Satu Sabali on social media, and she's back home in Berlin, which is pretty cool for her. I imagine that's got to be awesome to see her family after that rookie season, and what a rookie season it was for Satu Sabali. We're all hoping that Sabrina Ionescu gets back to her regular self from that ankle injury, but what a great job. What a great job by all three of our products in the WNBA, with Ruthie Hebert in that conversation as well. Tonight we got great Ducks cornerbacks. I've got a few that immediately come to mind for me that we'll talk about. We've got some highlights for you, including some great stories from Jerry, Georgie, and Terry, because you know, it's really fun for me to listen to those three guys because Jerry and Georgie obviously have called 3 decades of Oregon football in the booth together. And Terry Johns, the last 15 or so years hosting the pregame show, he's done in-depth interviews with a lot of these guys that you've heard over the years on the pregame show, and just some really great stories to tell as we'll go through the history of the cornerback position on Great Ducks tonight. If you're live with us in the 1 o'clock hour, it'll be at 5 o'clock across the Oregon Sports Network and on the Oregon football social media channels as well. Tomorrow on the show, I mentioned Nikki Duke from Oregon Nutrition is going to join us. Really interested to kind of pull back the curtain on that industry a little bit and have a little bit of fun talking with Nikki, who works with all the basketball teams, and she's a big part of the success. That does it for today. We'll see you tomorrow.
All right, everybody in the car. Let's go.
What are we going to do first when we get there, Mom? Go for a hike?
Sure.
What about canoeing? Can we go canoeing too?
I don't see why.
How long does it take to get to the forest?
It's not that far, sweetie.
Are we there yet?
Yep, we're here.
Already?
It's a short drive from your